Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And on this video, I'm talking about albums that I'll be listening to in May 2025. And I wanted to record this earlier. It's already May 4th when I'm recording this, and probably May 5th when I post it. So I've already listened to a lot of the albums on May 2nd. So my next video, I'll be giving my quick first impressions of these 8 albums that I listened to on May 2nd. I'm going to quickly run through them now, but I'm not going to say much about them. So there's Gentle Giant Playing the Fool, which is a great live album from this band from recorded in 1977, but it's remastered and now it features the whole concert, whereas the original version just cut a few songs to make it fit on one piece of vinyl back in the day, I think, or however many, maybe it was two. I don't actually remember. Um, but obviously it's great. Gentle Giant, an amazing band from the 70s. Also on May 2nd, Propagandhi released At Peace, an amazing Canadian punk rock band, kind of melodic hardcore, their 8th album. Paradigm Blue released an EP called Frontiers, an amazing American progressive rock band for fans of Rush. And Pup released Who Will Look After the Dogs, great album by this Canadian punk rock band. Yuka and Chronoship released Ribbon Butterfly, the 5th album by this Japanese symphonic prog rock band. The Flower Kings released Love, the 17th album by this Swedish progressive rock band. Lights released A6, the 6th album by this Canadian artist. She does kind of electronic synth pop with alternative and indie rock influences. And the last one that I listened to for May 2nd is Great Wide Nothing and their album A Shout Into the Void, the 4th album by this American band, and it's neo-progressive rock with alternative and punk influences. So all those are great. I'm going to give more detailed thoughts on them in my next video, but let's jump into what else I'll be listening to in May. On May 9th, I've got Haken releasing a live album. And I don't usually talk about live albums, but I just love Haken so much that I kind of have to check this out and talk about it. It's Liveforms, An Evening with Haken. They're an amazing progressive metal band from the UK, one of my favorites of all time. On the same day, Sleep Token is releasing Even in Arcadia, which is the 4th album by this band from the UK, and it is pop rock with alternative metal, art rock, post metal, R&B, and progressive influences, maybe even some metalcore from time to time. And I thought the last album by Sleep Token was good, but I also think they're pretty overrated because they're massively popular. I don't really see why, other than that they're really just a pop band who sprinkles in metal and has masks and has this whole mystique around them like Ghost. And I guess that's kind of the formula these days to become a really popular band. You just wear masks like Slipknot, Ghost, and Sleep Token. Then you also do have to make some good music. Like I'm not knocking their talent. They're definitely good musicians, but nothing groundbreaking. If you sprinkle in enough pop into your metal and have the masks, it seems to be a winning formula here, and it's worked for them. They're massively popular. I'm definitely curious to hear what they do on this album, but not expecting it to be one of my favorites. Next up on May 9th, I'll be listening to Lars Fredrik Froislie and his album Gamle Mester. Not sure how to pronounce that. Pretty sure it's in Norwegian because this is the second solo album by this amazing Norwegian keyboard player. It's progressive rock. He's the keyboard player from Wobbler, which is an amazing band. I thought his debut album was good. The music was excellent, but the vocals were a bit below average for my taste. They dragged the album down a bit from being a contender for my favorites list. I'm hoping he can outdo his debut on this one. I expect the keyboard playing and composition to be amazing as usual, and I hope to hear an improvement in his vocals or to hear him bring in some guest vocalists or even many guests to take this to the next level. But I think he probably just does the vocals again himself here. So Probably I expect amazing keyboards, but maybe not as amazing on the vocal front. That's Lars Fredrik Froislie with Gamle Mester. Also on May 9th, the novelists are releasing, or not the novelists, just novelists are releasing Coda, the fifth album by this French progressive metalcore band that's kind of genty, but also very accessible and catchy while still being impressive technically and progressive. Great female vocals in this band from Camille Contreras. Definitely check it out if you like progressive metalcore, gent, and female fronted metal bands with some harsh vocals, some clean vocals. Next up on May 9th is Behemoth with The Shit of God. What silly title for an album, but that's what they called it. And of is with a V. It wasn't even a typo in my sheet here. That's how they're spelling it. This is the 13th album by this band from Poland. It's black metal with death metal influences, or blackened death metal, if you will. And I'm checking it out. I liked some of the singles, and I know they're a well-respected band in black and death metal, or they're fairly popular. I think their album, I think it was The Satanist, that got pretty good reviews from a lot of people. They're not a band that I'm a huge fan of, but I've liked some of their songs, so I figured I'd give this one a try. A few more on May 9th. Edensong is releasing Our Road to Dust, the third album by this American progressive rock band. And I've never heard any of the previous albums by Edensong, but I enjoyed the advanced single I heard from this, which was the title track, Our Road to Dust. So check that one out if you like Edensong or if you just like progressive rock. Then Pymlico is releasing Core, the eighth album by this Norwegian band. This is instrumental progressive rock with jazz fusion influences. And I have never heard any of their previous work before, but I do like the single that I heard called Don't Do That. Next up, I have Black Map releasing Hex, the fourth album by this American band, and it's alternative rock with post-hardcore, hard rock, metal, and progressive influences. Again, I've never heard any album by Black Map before, but I like the early single I heard called Hex Come Get It, so I put this on my list to listen to. Then on May 12th, JPL, or Jean-Pierre Louveton, is releasing Postscriptum, the 12th album by this French artist, progressive rock with metal influences. And again, I've never heard an album by JPL before, but I like the early single I heard called Jekyll. On this album, the lyrics are in French, so you have to be ready for that. You have to be able to accept non-English lyrics if you want to check this out, but the music sounds great, and I'm okay with non-English lyrics myself. But if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, you could avoid this one. Now let's talk about May 15th and 16th. On the 15th, I don't know if I spelled that band name right. Breidablik. Breidablik. I probably spelled that wrong in here. Uh, YCS5 is the name of the album, and they're a band from Norway. Let me figure out how to spell it correctly here. Breidablik. I think it's just Breidablik, like this. Breidablik. And this is going to be the eighth album by this Norwegian band. And it is instrumental, dark ambient electronic with progressive rock. And I'm not too knowledgeable about that kind of music scene, but they call that Berlin School. And I'm listening to this one because I love the collaborative album that Breidablik did with Giorgio from earlier this year. Um, I mostly like the Giorgio side even better, but I did really like the Breidablik side too. So they basically released an album earlier this year with Giorgio, where each band did a like 20-minute epic, and it's a collaborative album with Giorgio's track on one side and Breidablik's on the other. I think the bands have a member in common between them too. So there's a musician who's in both bands. And while instrumental dark ambient electronics not in Berlin schools not really a genre that typically resonates with me, I found that I liked the Breidablik track, so I'm curious to check out more of their stuff. On May 16th, we have Callous Daoboys releasing I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, the third album by this American mathcore band with metalcore, post-hardcore, and alternative metal influences. And all of their albums and EPs so far have been excellent. The three singles I heard ahead of time are all also excellent as well. And I think if Callous Daoboys can pull off another release at that caliber, I think that'll have to earn them a spot among my favorite band lists, which is, of course, growing and getting into the hundreds at this point, but it still takes a lot for me to put a band on it. They have to, you know, be really impressive to get on my favorite band list. But this band, they have the ability to be as catchy as Fall Out Boy, but as heavy and chaotic as the Dillinger Escape Plan, and they can do both really well. So definitely check out I Don't Want to See You in Heaven by Callous Daoboys. Possibly like, them along with Rollo Tomasi taking up the mathcore crown from the Dillinger Escape Plan and other bands like, Number 12 Looks Like You and that kind of thing. So if that sounds good to you, check out Callous Daoboys and I Don't Want to See You in Heaven. Then Barry Tomorrow is putting out Will You Haunt Me with That Same Patience, the eighth album by this metalcore band from the UK. It's melodic metalcore with post-hardcore and alternative metal influences. And I've heard the last two albums by Barry Tomorrow. I thought the last one was very good. The one before I thought was pretty average. I'm hoping they can improve even more from the last one on this album. Then Magic Pie is releasing Maestro, the sixth album by this Norwegian progressive rock band, symphonic progressive rock. And I've never heard an album by Magic Pie before, but an early release single I heard, Name It to Tame It, is a great track. So I put this on my list. Now let's jump over to May 23rd, where Green Day is releasing a deluxe edition of Saviors. This is American punk rock, pop punk with alternative rock influences. And I thought their 14th album was very good, a great return to form after the album before it, which was a complete dud. So their 14th album here was the normal standard version of Saviors. I enjoyed it. And the one before that, it was like Father of All Mother Effers or something, which was by far their worst album. But Saviors is pretty good. Now this is a deluxe version of that, and it features 7 new tracks, including 2 acoustic versions of existing tracks and 5 brand new tracks. So I'm curious to check those out. Check it out if you're a Green Day fan or if you like pop punk at all, then can't really go wrong with this. Then Cosmograph is releasing the Orphan Epic or Epoch, the 10th album by this neo-progressive rock band from the UK. Singles I heard sound great, so a little like Pink Floyd inspired, I think. Uh, Great neo-prog rock. Can't go wrong. I don't know if this is going to blow my mind or be anything too innovative, but I think it'll be pretty solid. And Sparks is releasing an album called Mad. This is the 26th album by this American band. It's art rock with pop, alternative, electronic, new wave, glam rock, and progressive influences. And while they've released 26 albums, I have to say I've never heard any of their albums before, but I am intrigued by some of the singles that I've heard from this one. I've heard good things about this band from another YouTube channel. I've seen some videos by Larry Graves on the Canadian Stud Muffin YouTube channel. and he speaks highly of this band. And I've heard some of the tracks from the album, some of the singles, and I'm interested enough to give it a try. So check that out if you like kind of quirky poppy art rock stuff. Mad by Sparks. Now let's talk about May 30th, and this will be the last three albums to go in this video. I'm going to make a separate video for June because I think the video would just be way too long if I talked about May and June. So on May 30th, Rivers of Nile is releasing their self-titled album, the fifth album by this American band. It's progressive metal with technical death metal influences. And I thought their last album was excellent. The singles I heard from this were also great. I expect even more greatness from this band here. So definitely check out this self-titled album if you like progressive metal, in particular, the stuff that gets pretty technical, pretty brutal, technical death metal stuff. And then Vildhjarta is releasing, oh dear, help me with this. Dar Skogen under Evigetens. I'm guessing that's Swedish because this is the third album by this Swedish progressive metal gent band with deathcore and post metal influences. The album title means Where the Forest Sings Under the Eternal Spruce Trees, apparently. And I thought their last album was very good. I'm hoping they can even outdo themselves here. I've heard people call Vildhjarta's sound and genre called Thal, which I guess is like an even more extreme version of gent. I'm not sure if people generally recognize Thal as a genre, but I guess it's maybe becoming a thing. Really low down tuned guitars and syncopated riffing with harsh vocals, but also the odd melodic vocal part. This Thal sound is basically like gent, but taken to even more further extremes. So gent is kind of low tuned, seven strings, sometimes even eight strings, but then on Thal it's just like even lower, as ridiculously low as you can get, and maybe slowed down and made more brutal, maybe bringing in more deathcore influences and insane syncopation and polyrhythms and all that kind of stuff. And lastly, Half Past Four is releasing an album called Finding Time, the sixth album by this Canadian progressive rock band with some jazz fusion and metal influences. And this is a band that I've seen live. They put on a good show. I still haven't done a deep dive on their full discography, but I've liked everything I've heard by them, and so perhaps I should. They're a female-fronted, quirky prog band with vocals that sound kind of like Kate Bush over music like Gentle Giant, King Crimson, Pink Floyd, and Yes. And the single that I heard here, Finding Time, the title track, was great. Lots of great piano in particular. If that sounds good to you, check out Finding Time by Half Past Four. And that's it for albums that I'll be checking out in May. I'm sure I'll hear about other things throughout the month that pique my interest that I don't have on my list right now. Do you know anything else that's coming out in May that I might have missed? Let me know down in the comments. And which of these are you most excited to hear? Stay tuned on my channel. Every week I'll post my first impressions of the albums that I listened to that week. And at the end of May, I'll post my top 10 of these albums so you can see which ones I thought were the best. And shortly, I will probably also make my June album release radar video. So stay tuned for that. If you like metal, rock, and prog music, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you want to support the channel and stay on the loop on when I make new videos. And until next time, peace out.